Hi and welcome to a new What's It For episode. Today we are looking at the track position node, and this node consists simply of three outputs and a data block. So let's have a look at those outputs right now. As you can see, we have an X and a Y output value, and we have a speed vector as well. Also we have a movie clip drop down menu, which we will need to use a movie clip in the tracking in the motion tracking scene to get the information for that particular data block. So before we can actually use this node, let's head over to our motion tracking workspace and set up the movie clip that we need so that we can use this particular node. Okay, so the first thing we need to do now that we're in here is to open our movie clip. So let's go to the open menu and we will select the clip that we want to use. To find it, let's just switch our view, and I want this one. This is a simple clip of just me riding past a series of lockups or garages, and I'm going to try and composite an image over the top of one of the garage doors. But before we bring it in, I'm going to need to change the camera settings in the render output. So I'm just changing to the size of the actual video, which is 1280 by 720, and it's a 29 frames per second, and I'm going to change that to a custom value because I'm not sure if the 29.97 is correct for the video. So 29 frames should be correct. That's what's on the EXIF data, and now we can bring in our clip properly. So open up that clip and choose the garage doors. Okay, so now we need to set the scene frames to get all the frames into our clip, and we want to choose the range where we're going to have the effect. Just searching through, and this is about where the garages start. I did a walkthrough of the alleyway as well, but I thought the bricks were a bit too blurry for me to do a decent track, so now we're just following through. This is it. I'm going to stick a logo onto that door there that's just gone past. So I'm going to stop it there, and I'm going to set the end frame for our effect on that frame there. So now we just have this little loop. We're just playing it through. That's actually caching all the frames into our memory as well, so we don't need to prefetch anything. And I'm happy with that. So now what we need to do is to stop it and start adding the tracks. So I'm going to start the track from the middle of the loop where our garage door is in the center of the frame, and we're going to track it both backwards and forwards to get the full range of movement. And you'll notice also that the garage door goes off the frame, so we'll be doing some offset tracking as well. But first we're going to just pick this little logo, add our first track, and we want it centered into the thing so that we can see the whole of that number plate, number 11, and we're just going to scale it up a little bit. And then I want to go down and put my search area on, and just click search under there and scale that up significantly so that we're not going to lose this track when the clip moves across the frames. And we're just using a simple location tracking set. So here we go, we've gone to the edge and our tracking point has reached the end of the frame, so we're going to reset it to the middle, and track it forwards. And again, we've reached the end of the frame, but like I said before, you'll notice that the garage door hasn't fully left the scene. So we need to make an offset track so that we can have the entire range of the clip and have our overlay move off the screen with the door. So we're going to take our movie clip, double tap G and move it into a position that we can use. First I'm going to go back a frame so that our original point is on the scene. And I'm going to clear any forward frames that happen to have gone on by clicking the clear frames button. Now I need to find that other point, and I'm going to use this lock here, and like I say, just double tap G and that allows you to move the search and the pattern markers without moving the point, and the point is still connected to the number plate. However, as you can see, the search border and the pattern marker are now tracking this lock, and you can tell they're connected by this little dotted line. Let's go forward, and now you can see we are tracking the point off the screen. Let that run through. See, that's really cool. And our entire garage door has disappeared off the screen with our track. So now we know that when we overlay our image, that the image will follow along and it will disappear off the screen as well. So now we need to track the opposite direction, so we'll just find the last point. And then, where is it? There. And then we need to find another point to track, so I'm going to track this lock on the other side. So again, double tap G, GG, move the thing, and we'll track from there, and just make sure we've got a good point of contrast, because we don't want to lose the track, we don't want it wobbling all over the place now. Make sure everything is in order and just track backwards. Do a couple of single frames to make sure it's all locked on, and then hit track. And there we go, that's it. Job's done, and we can move into our compositing workflow. Okay, so we just need to move this to the beginning of our node tree, and we need to also have our video clip inside, so let's open up the video clip input, and we'll drop that there and select the video that we were just using from the data block there, and there we go, we've got the right one in, and the frame range is the same on the timeline in this workspace, so we know that we're in the right area. And now we just need to bring in an image that we're going to plug on top of our garage door. So let's just make some space and add image. There we go, and open up the image we need. It's in my downloads, I think. There we go. That should be it. Blender logo, obviously, inevitably. Okay, so now we need to connect all these together. So we're going to put these two in the right order so that our lines don't get mixed up and tangled. So the first thing we need to do is connect these two together. So let's have a alpha over. We'll explain more about this when we get to doing the colors sequence, but basically this allows us to use an alpha image on top of a normal image, and there you go. Now that we have the viewer, we can see our logo is on top of our clip. It's all very nice, and if we play through, you'll see that the logo is just simply stuck on top of the image. It doesn't do anything, so we need to fix that. Okay, so let's get the image into the center of our frame where we want it to be. I'm just going to scrub through until it's in position. Okay, so now all we need is to get the X and Y data out of our data block and connect it to our image. And to do this, we need to add in a transform node, and we'll run the image through the transform node, and then we need to connect up the X and Y positions. But first we're going to use the scale on the transform node to reduce the size of our clip. Oops, too small. Oops. There we go. That's better. Alright, that's about the right size, but it's still in the wrong position. And we're going to use the X and Y coordinates from our data block. And we're just going to plug those into the relevant sockets on the transform node, like so. And as you can see, nothing has happened because we need to get the data block from our clip. So we just click the menu and add that in. Now you can see there are two more inputs, and the first one is the object, and the object is down here, and it's the camera because that's the only object we have in the scene. So we can go back, compositing, and select the camera from the menu. And now we have to input the name of a track. We only have one track in here, but if we were to have dozens of tracks in a 3D scene, we might want to have a unique name for our track so that we know what it is, which one we are selecting. So we'll go to make sure our track is selected and go to the track name at the top, and we'll just change that, and I'm going to call this one Eric the track. Okay, so back in our compositing window, we can now choose from the menu, and we can find easily our track called Eric and plug that in, and you'll see that we have disappeared off the screen. And the reason for that is because all of these position things, and we have different positions underneath: absolute frame, absolute, relative start, relative frame, absolute frame, and they all do different things depending on what's going on in your scene. So absolute is the default setting, and that puts an absolute position of the marker. That's like basically whatever the values are is what the position of the marker will be. And relative start is relative to the beginning of the other positions of any other markers in your scene. We don't have any, so these are irrelevant. And relative frame, again, you need other trackers to give a relative a relation to in the scene. Again, not necessary in this instance. And the final one, absolute frame, is the position of your marker in the particular frame, and that gives you your position information. But we're just going to stick with the default absolute for this and continue on. So let's just disconnect the X and Y positions from our node for a second, because as you can see it's disappeared and I want to see where it is. So what happened when we plugged in the track position node, the X and Y coordinates of the track were put into the X and Y, and that shifted it along. And if we plug in the Y, we can see it jumps up, and this is down to the position of the node, and we've gone from 0 to several hundred pixels. So we need to reset that by adding in a new node, and we're going to use a translate node. So back in our node group, that's Shift A, add distort again, and we'll choose the translate node right at the bottom, and that gives us just an X and Y coordinate value that we can adjust, and we can transform the X and Y. And if we type in the numbers that we had before on the motion tracking, let's just find those again. We'll go back and we'll just type them in directly, and we have to remember that we're removing them from the value, so we have to have them as a negative value. Again, see, it's popped right off screen with the value, so if we hit the negative button, it just brings it all back in. And don't forget, that's a negative on the main keyboard, not on the number pad. And now we can manually adjust it to get it in the position that we want. There we go, it's that simple. And now that we've done that, we can come down, have a run through our tracking, and make sure that everything is running smoothly. And it's not, something weird is happening. Why is that happening? Let's have a look. Oh right, we have our track position node set to absolute frame, which holds it in position on the frame, which is not what we want, so we need to change it back to absolute, and that's thrown us off again. So the image has gone somewhere, so we need to find that, and it should be around the same place, but for some reason it's gone. So I'm going to fiddle with that until I find the right setting. Okay, so that took some doing. The X position had been thrown off by about 1,000,000 positions. Well, it was 1,000 pixels away, and it took a bit of finding, but we're here back again, and now everything is correct, and we can scrub through our timeline and see that the image is nicely pinned onto our garage door. Now if I go over to the very beginning of the frame and start scrubbing through gently just to make sure everything is correct, I'm just going frame by frame until something appears, and just fortunately it's quite quick and it's not taking overly long to render each frame. So here we are coming in, and we should start seeing our image soon. Yep, there it is, creeping in from the side. That's all thanks to that offset that we did in the tracking. There we go. Yep, everything is looking wonderful. So I think we can start to consider rendering this out. But before we start on rendering, let's finish our image, because we've got these horrible white outlines around our image that are due to artifacts in the alpha channel. So what we want is to use the alpha and clip those white bits out, so we just have the logo. And we can do that by taking the alpha channel, plugging it into the transform nodes, but we need to duplicate them first, so we'll Shift D, make a copy of them, and we'll take the alpha and plug it into the image, and then we'll take the X and Y positions and plug those into the relevant slots, and plug the output of the transform into the factor of the alpha over node, and as you can see, that's cut off all those horrible white glitches from around the edge. And now we can consider rendering our image. So let's take a look at that, and we can see that we have our PNG files set to our temp folder, and so we just click the animation button and let it go rendering away. So that's all rendered out to a PNG sequence, and now if we come up to our render options and hit play rendered animation, we should get a pop-up window with our results so that we can see them in real time, and we just have to wait for that to load up. Where is it? There it is. And now, as you can see, our image is tracked nicely along with the garage door. That's all lovely, but we still have the option to put in a speed factor, and we can do that by simply importing a vector blur node. And that's as simple as going into the add menu, adding a filter, vector blur. It's right down at the bottom. I forgot where it was originally. I thought it was under vectors, but it's not. It's a filter, and under right down there, vector blur, we just drop it into the image. Try and avoid putting it on the wrong node. We want to put it in the right place to start, so connect it to the image, and now we take the speed factor from there and connect it to the speed of the vector blur and increase the samples, and that should give us a little bit of motion blur on our image that will help us blend it in a bit more to the scene. And then we just go off and we render it all out all over again, and it's going to take a bit longer this time because it's processing the speed blur. So we'll let that go again and talk to you again. Okay, so that's all rendered out. It took a bit longer than I hoped, but let's pop up the window and let's see what we've achieved. And now you can see it floating through with the vector blur added. It kind of blends it into the scene a little bit better. Could have done a bit more on the vector blur itself, but as it goes, it looks fine. And that's how you use the track position node. And we have one more node to cover on the input section, and that is the image input, and then we'll take a short break of nodes and we'll do some interesting VFX stuff, which is why you signed up in the first place. So hit that like and subscribe button to catch hold of those. And also we are doing a new channel called Jam FX, which is all about real things, props and makeup. We'll be talking about latex and showing you how to make different special effects without using extortionate amounts of money, basically. Keep it cheap like we like. So you can check that channel out as well, and hopefully subscribe to that and catch up some really interesting ideas. And in the meantime, I shall go and start recording the next episode. So until next time, I will see you then. Goodbye. Don't forget, thumbs up, subscribe, check us out on social media to leave us a comment if there is any effects that you'd like to see, obviously. We'll do our best to accommodate that. And close down. Let's hit that outro.